How are we doing, guys? We're back again with the big match preview. KG, as always, joins us. And we've also got Darren from All Stats Aren't We. How are you doing, guys?
Yeah, good man. Thanks. Yeah, good to be on. It's been a few. I've only been on once before. It's been a while since that, but glad to be back.
We've missed you, mate. I know when I told Oscar last night, he was like, I love Darren. I love Darren.
Well, someone's got
to. You know. KG, everything good, mate?
Yeah, man, absolutely great, man. Everything's good. We got a set date for the gym to reopen, so looking forward to that date.
You're gonna get hench. You're gonna get hench.
Nah, man, I need to get back in my groove, man. My muscle memory's got to wake up and everything, man. It's mad. So,
really?
Yeah.
I've got to admit, I've just seen this come through. It's very good. It's very witty, to be fair. But you know, let's move swiftly on. Let's move swiftly on from that. But look, obviously, we've just come in from a 3-0 against Southampton. Fantastic win. You know, nothing more to really say. You know, it was an absolutely superb win. Open game. I think we kind of said off air there, Darren, that at 0-0, I mean, I can't believe it got to a 0-0 at half time. I thought there was going to be a goal for half time. I thought there's destined to be a goal for half time. But as soon as we scored, it was pretty comfortable, wasn't it? I think obviously there was the one chance after that. But did you feel it was relatively comfortable after half time?
Well, yeah, I mean, the kind of first half really played out how I expected it to. I thought Southampton had come and make it uncomfortable for us in the first 20 minutes with their press, particularly in that first 20 minutes. And they had most of their good chances in the game came in the first 10 minutes, really, didn't they? So beyond that, I actually think it was a lot more comfortable from 20 minutes on than maybe we've said. But you know, definitely once we got the first goal, that meant that they had to come out a lot more, didn't it? They had to try and come and get the equaliser, and they left loads of spaces for us to run into. And you know, with Costa and Rafinha on the pitch and both staying quite high, and us hitting those channels behind, I just felt it was just a matter of time really until we got the second. Oscar with glasses, I'm not having that. Yeah, it was only a matter of time really until we got the second one. Well done, Ollie. Well done.
That's a brilliant one.
I'm going to defend KG here, actually, because KG's getting called the Pablo hater. But I'll have you know, KG regularly predicts 3-0s, to be fair, on big match previews. And to be fair, Pet KG, it came to fruition. So I'm going to, and Pablo came on. To be fair. What are your thoughts on the game, mate?
Did Pablo come on? No, I'm only joking. Yeah. No, no, it was comfortable, man. I know people were saying about the first half. It was scrappy, for sure. But you know, Rafinha was setting them up. We weren't knocking them in, and you know, I'm going to leave this all good vibes though, man, because the performance against Southampton was really good. But we have to get. I think the club know it as well. We have to get players on Rafinha's level in the summer, because the guy wears his heart on his sleeve as well. You see when he's frustrated, when he thinks that thing should be going in, and they're not going in, he's like, nah, this isn't bad. And the amount of times, I mean, I've got so many Liverpool YouTubers, Man United YouTubers, and they're all begging for this guy to come. Like, Rafinha's on top of their shopping list, along with, you know, a guy like Neto and all that. So we do need to recruit right. But yeah, the performance was fine. Even Tyler Roberts got a nice assist. He should have scored a couple goals, but, you know, that just goes along with what I think about him as a finisher. I don't think he's a natural finisher at all. You know, if he's going to do those, like a pass from behind the striker, then great. But yeah, it was all good. I thought, but you know, kudos as well to that Southampton player Romeo, who got that tackle in on Rafinha. Amazing tackle. Awesome. And Melia kept us in the game as well with a few good saves. And yeah, and it was a shame that one was offside actually from Bertrand, because that was a really, really good stop. And earlier on in the season, that 1-on-1 may have gone in, but he's getting better. You know, he's already broken that clean sheet record that Joe Hart had at his age. You know, we've got a good keeper there. And we'd make the mistake now. People talking about getting a better goalkeeper's backup. We'd be making that Kasper Schmeichel mistake again, in my opinion, if we let him go or make him second choice and then he sees himself out. And then you see what Kasper Schmeichel turned into, and he's still at that level too. So now the future's bright for us, man. We're looking really good.
I think Melia is one of the best potential goalkeepers in world football, so I think you're absolutely right, Cage. It'd be a massive mistake to either push him down the pecking order or get rid of him. He'll be he'll be one of the very best in the world in 10 years, no doubt at all.
Love that. Yep. He's France's future number one in waiting.
Absolutely.
He's a shout to get in the squad, isn't he, though? Now, no, he's not in the cap, but you see, Lloris isn't playing particularly well. There's no one really obvious who's standing out as the backup to Lloris. I'm not saying he's obviously not going to start at the Euros unless something drastically changes, especially with Deschamps in charge. He's not going to do something as drastic as that. But he could well find himself second or third keeper in that squad. Would be no surprise. And if he's going off form, surely you've got to be looking at Melia. But, I mean, for me, just one other... You did kind of mention Tyler Roberts there, KG, because it was a lovely assist. And, I mean, I don't know about you, Darren, but, I mean, you've been a very big defender of Tyler Roberts, as have I. Bit of a victory, that, wasn't it, last couple of games? It's been a bit of a victory for the Tyler Roberts brigade.
Well, I just think he's starting to do the sort of things that I expect him to do, which is to find space, to make clever runs, to beat people with the ball, and to find those sort of smart passes like he did for the one for Bamford. That's kind of what I expect from him. I think he's a lot better than probably the majority of the fan base do. I think his ceiling's a lot higher than a lot of other people do. So I'm really, really pleased that he's got into the team and that he's starting to show that he's worthy of his place, because there's definitely a big player there. Definitely.
Well, just before you go on as well, I just want to give props to Costa as well, because listen, I flip-flop. It is what it is. I'm a football fan and I can be fickle at times. I don't shy away from that. These things happen, but it was only 2 weeks ago I was saying Costa, nah, he's gone in the summer for me. It's a waste of money. On reflection, Wolves have had his pants down, etc. And he's gone on a similar sort of trajectory as Roberts. I think I listened to All Stats Aren't We actually this morning. I forget who it was who said it. It's like he's having the same trajectory, but almost 2 weeks behind Roberts.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. And there is a case, and I know we'll get onto it a little bit later on, but with El Mohammadi at right back, there's a case for Rafinha to play on the left and Costa to come in on the right for me personally on the weekend. Whether or not it's too soon, maybe, but I think there's a case for it.
I think it depends what kind of game it's going to be, doesn't it? Because if it's going to be one where Villa leave loads of space behind their fullbacks and try pressures high, then definitely put Costa in, because that's the sort of game he thrives in. But if it's going to be one where they sit a bit deeper or they sit in a mid block and we need to build up more, then I don't think there's much point in putting him in. I think Harrison's better in those situations because he's kind of much more versatile in terms of like little interplays, little build up, little first touch, little give and goes. And I don't think Costa's quite as good at that sort of stuff. So I think it really depends on what Bielsa anticipates Villa's tactics are going to be.
Well, I mean, from last time out, obviously, look, it's been 4 months since we last played Villa. It honestly feels like yesterday, that game, on that Friday night and that lot. I mean, are you expecting, Darren, a similar approach from Villa to what they went with on that Friday night game? Obviously, I know they've got Cash is out of this one, Grealish is out of this one. Do you think that's going to have any bearing in terms of how Villa go into this kind of game?
Yeah, I kind of wonder if they'll sit a bit deeper. I think that last time they tried to play a very open game, and they played with like a 4-3-3, didn't they? Last time it was quite a flat 4-3-3 with Louise and Barkley and McGinn all kind of playing quite deep. That meant we could push onto them, but at the same time they were quite high up the pitch, which meant they left space in behind for us to exploit. I suspect they will play a bit deeper this time, particularly without Grealish. I think they might try and come for a point. And try or maybe nick one, late on or from a set piece or something like that. I don't anticipate that they'll come and try and bring the game to us, because I think they saw at Villa Park just how dangerous we can be in those sort of situations, and we really just picked them off, didn't we? So I think it'll be. I'm anticipating maybe something closer to a low block.
I mean, KG, how much of a blow? Obviously, Grealish is a massive blow, but Matty Cash has got to be a bit of a blow as well. I mean, Matty Cash last season, me and Joe said last night that we both had him in our kind of like championship team of the seasons. He was that impressive at right back for Forest, and obviously Forest have massively, since he's gone to Villa, they've completely gone to pieces, Forest as a team. Yeah, well, that's a massive loss, isn't it, for Villa? Matty Cash and Grealish. That's good. Surely it plays into our hands quite a fair bit.
Yeah, I mean, they'll probably be thinking the same with Calvin Phillips being out. So, but what I'd say is Matty Cash has been very impressive. He's fitting like a glove at Aston Villa. He's been a really good sign. I know people question the price tag, but the price tag is what it is. He's really been a key part of how they've played this season. He's been a key component, along with Emi Martinez in goal, who's been outstanding as well, by the way. Yeah. But that goes with something else with Arsenal selling their informed best goalkeeper to another Premier League team now. So, Jack Grealish for me, as if you follow me on social media, you know that I'm a big Jack Grealish fan. So I'm disappointed he's going to be out tomorrow because I like to see the best players play.
But you sound like Bielsa, bro. You sound like Bielsa.
I agree with you, KJ. Yeah. I want to see the best against the best.
Yeah, because then there's no asterisks, and if we do win tomorrow, it's going to be but we didn't have Jack Grealish or whatever it may be. Yes, we can say Calvin Phillips, but Jack Grealish, I don't put the world class tag on many people, but he is world class because you take him out of any team, you're losing so much. It's not just goals, assists; it's how he carries the ball, it's the way he wins free kicks. It's his overall game. He's just gotten better, and I noticed this guy when he was at Notts County on loan, and we was in the Championship getting a load of bums. I was like, why can't we just get this youngster here, man? He looks really good, and obviously he's just gone strength for strength. So I think we'll be favourites for tomorrow's game on that basis.
Yeah, but we got Cameron Stewart though, mate. That's the thing. Yeah, we did a great bit of business there.
Yeah, that's what I mean. We were signing players like that, man, and Notts County were in League One at the time, and he was just doing up that league like it was nothing. And obviously, he's just gotten better. So I know a lot of Leeds fans don't like him, and it hurt me, man, because he was on an interview once and he said that Leeds fans don't like me, and I was like, oh no, not me. I love you, Jack, but don't put us over the oh, what's Max? But no, yeah. So obviously, losing a player like him, and we've seen him. If he was missing out of anybody's team, it'd be a big deal. But Villa, I mean, they just look so mediocre without him. And yes, Villa could very well win the game tomorrow. But what I'm saying is that they just don't look the same without a player like him because he does so much for the team.
Yeah.
This is where I'm too emotional. I'm too emotional for that. So when I see Bielsa say, I wish he was playing in my head, I'm going, nah, I'm glad he's not. I'm glad he's not. And I get, he's undeniably a fantastic player. But again, I'm much like some of the people in the comments, sometimes I'm too emotional with it. I'm like, can't get away with him just because he's a bit of a tit. But listen, he's a great player. And like you said, anyone would miss someone as good as that, man.
You can hold two competing ideas in your head at the same time, Joe. You can say that he's a brilliant player, but also a complete wanker. And I think that would be a fairly appropriate thing to say.
Yeah, it's true.
Jack, if you ever see this, I do not agree with these boys.
So KG,
I love you, man.
KG, you've now slandered Pablo for 20 minutes, and now you're promoting Jack Grealish. I mean, it's not great.
Okay, all right. I'm
only messing.
If you could choose out of the two, who you picking, it's going to be Jack Grealish every time. That's what I'm talking about. No. I love players like that.
How old's Jack Grealish now?
25.
I'd choose Pablo at Jack Grealish's age. That's what I'd choose.
Yeah.
This is it's mad, isn't it? We have
Pablo was silencing the new camp and the Bernabeu at Jack Grealish's age. There's no comparison.
Hello, Gail.
Gail gives a lot of hate for KG every time he comes on KG. But do you know what though? I respect it, KG, because you come on and there's no pandering. You say that, and that's what it's about, and that's why, you can only ever be honest, can't you? That's what I mean. He's a great footballer, but for me, there'll always be that little bit of I'm one of them fans that he spoke about when he says, "I don't know why they just dislike me." I'm like, yeah, that's me.
my favourite ever thing about Jack Grealish is when that fan ran on the ground and hit him, and he was on the ground, and you saw the clip of him turning round and say, "Oh my God!" You could tell he had a Brummie accent just by seeing his mouth move. That was my favourite ever thing about Jack Grealish.
He scored the winner as well, which was to be fair.
He scored the winner, didn't he?
It's like
he had the last
play.
Yeah. Oh, he's an absolute
baller.
There's no ways about it. He's an incredible player.
Yeah, 100%.
That's it.
I love watching players like that.
Do you know, like, I think, Oscar, we were chatting obviously to the opposition fans last night, and they were throwing up some ways in which they would hope that he would attack the game, Dean Smith, in playing like a 5-man midfield, etc. They were saying and all, but they were a bit like they don't expect him to make wholesale changes. That's not something he does apparently. Like they're making out that he was pretty rigid, weren't they? Do you know what I mean? So it might be, it could be his downfall in it, I guess.
No, absolutely.
Sorry.
Go on.
Go on, KG.
No, all it is that Ross Barkley's been way out of form as well. And this is the kind of game tomorrow where he'll come up and probably pop in 2 goals or something like that. So it's up to us not to make him look better than he is. Because I tell you, if you watch Ross Barkley over the years, he's the same player that we had on loan. Like, he's got all the ability, all the talent, but his decision-making is so poor. And he's still the same. He'll still shoot when he should pass. His shots still go way over, like, he's not that much better than when he was on loan at our place. And that's when you're thinking, wow, this kid's good. He's got potential. He hasn't realized that. No way. Not in my opinion, anyway.
I still think he could be a difference maker, though, in a game like tomorrow. I still think Barkley on his day is still.
I thought he was rubbish in that first game.
Yeah, but
I don't think he did anything.
But he is still, for me.
Yeah.
He's still, for me, a player who can just. He's not consistent. That's his problem for me. He's not consistent. He can produce moments where you're like, whoa.
Yeah, but how often does he actually produce?
No, absolutely. Doesn't do it enough, no doubt about that. If he did do it more regularly, I'm thinking too much back to when Villa beat Liverpool 7-2 and watching him and thinking he's just sending Van Dijk and Fabinho for just a spin and that lot. It's absolutely crazy, but he doesn't do it enough.
That was the debut bounce. That was his just arrived here.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
What do you think to Ollie Watkins, Darren? I think he's potentially. I'm looking at obviously Villa without Jack Grealish. For me, he is the biggest threat.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, his movement's scary. He's really, really clever, really intelligent. But I do think that a lot of his movements are designed to get Grealish into space. So I think that'll see them kind of really struggle tomorrow, because quite often you'll see Watkins pull wide and Grealish moving into central spaces. And I just think that without Grealish, he is kind of the cog around which everything else revolves. So yeah, Barkley can be decent at times, but like KG says, his decision making is woeful. And Watkins is superb and a real threat. And I think he's kind of the primary threat tomorrow now. And I think that as long as we're able to keep him quiet and keep him out of the game, I think we've got every chance of coming away with a clean sheet.
I'll take that. I'll take that all day long, keep another clean sheet. But it's, looking the other end of Villa in terms of more defensively, obviously it's been last season, I think they conceded the most goals, or second most actually, to Norwich, which is Norwich are just Norwich. They conceded about 100 goals last year, but Villa were terrible defensively last year. And me and Joe spoke to the Villa fans yesterday, and they highlighted Costa at the back as being a crucial part of it. Obviously, Mings tends to get a lot of the plaudits, has got the England recognition. Martinez has had a lot of praise. But for me, whenever I've watched Villa, I've got to go along with that. I mean, how impressed have you been by Costa, KG?
Yeah, he's their main centre-back for me. Mings is only getting the plaudits he gets because he's English. He's got plenty of mistakes in him still, and I think he's like 26, 27 now. I mean, he's not on Costa. Consa's the one that people want to get. He's the one that's been linked with Man United and moves away like that. He's an overall better defender than Tyrone Mings. Tyrone Mings he doesn't concentrate for the full 90 minutes, so he's got that momentary lapse in him.
Matt Target is me. Do you think? Sorry, it's all about him a little bit. It could
I was just about to say that.
A bit like Pontus, maybe. Yeah. Well, Mings was the architect for Bamford getting that hat trick, really, wasn't he? When he pulled him up and made Bamford angry. But yeah, I mean, you're talking in Costa, Martinez. Villa's defense is actually pretty decent, so I've got nothing bad to say about them there. Martinez has been such a difference maker, and again, they got him for relatively cheap too, 17, 18 million.
That's crazy.
That's a bargain in this day and age. Yeah. So you can't really say much about that. Konsa's definitely the main threat. Matt Target is a threat down the left too if you give him space. But again, Grealish was the one that was holding the ball up and allowing Target to get forward and cross the ball in at times. So we'll see how they'll play. But I think it will be similar to how they played against Leicester, and how they looked against Leicester wasn't good.
Yeah, agreed.
I mean, Darren, for me, I look at Mings and think Mings is one of those players, like a Pontus. He's either 9 or 10 out of 10 or a 3 out of 10. There's no in between with him. He's one of those kind of players to me. If he's on it, he's a good player. But when he's not on it, he's like he was in that 3-0 game. Do you see this potential target as someone to target for Leeds in this game? Probably Bamford to try and run off him a couple of times.
Yeah, I think he struggles with good movement. He struggled with Bamford's movement at Villa Park, and I think that's one of Bamford's strengths, isn't it? So what I'm anticipating really is that we'll try and get the ball out wide to Rafinha a lot, and we'll rely on Bamford's movement a lot to try and drag Mings around, because I think he can be dragged around quite a bit. But targeting him, I actually think I probably rate him slightly higher than KG. I don't think he's amazing by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think he's decent. But yeah, I think Villa as a unit tend to defend pretty well, and I think they've kind of done that a lot more this season. So I think it might be a tougher game than we're expecting, given that we beat them 3-0. I think a lot of people might be thinking that this is a bit of a gimme, and I think it's anything but a gimme. I think they're about as good as we are on all things told. But Mings, I think Bamford might have the measure of him just about. So I think I'm looking forward to seeing Pat Bastard give him another difficult game.
I can't wait either, mate, to be honest.
You go through that Villa team, though, don't you, Joe? The whole team, there's a bit of history there between the Leeds and them, kind of. Obviously, Mings, in terms of in that 1-1 game, got involved, and then even Ollie Watkins diving. There is a bit more with every single player, isn't there?
The Pontus tag, I think he's one of them players. Listen, if he plays at your club, you love him. It's one of them characters. A lot of clubs have them. But when you're coming up against him, I just think, like the way he went on, I remember it was so funny. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but when we did the watch along, man, and I'll never forget Oscar going, he's punched him, he's punched Bamford.
I was saying Bamford, just go down, and that
He's punched him. No, it was great, and like KG said, he released the beast, as it were, and Bamford just had the last laugh. I thought it was exceptional. And his finishes that night were just unbelievable. They were absolutely amazing. Just on the Villa fan, I want to ask these two, because my opinions on it. I think for me, obviously not historically, there's no rivalry there, but I do have a little bit of a rivalry there now with Aston Villa, and it's a team I look to and say I really, really want to beat, due to the individuals that are in the side, the fact that they have Dean Smith as their manager, John Terry thrown in there as well, and just what happened in the Championship. There's that little bit of extra bite there. I know some maybe older or whatever, they're not the little old Villa or whatever, but for me, they're a huge club. But not only that, I think there is a little bit of a rivalry there, and I just wanted to get Darren and Cage's opinion on that, if they felt the same or what.
Well, I'm old enough to remember when we got promoted and used to play them, in the old First Division and then the League Cup final, and I didn't really give a monkeys about them. Then they were just another club, and a decent club, who played a lot of decent football at times. And I used to like that side with Daly and Atkinson and Dwight York in it and all that. And I thought they were a decent watch. But I never really cared. But any club that's got John Terry, I want a belt in the mouth. basically. So I'm not saying I would be able to belt John Terry in the mouth. He's probably quite a bit bigger than me, but he is a bit of a coward, I think. So maybe, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But basically, yeah, it's the John Terry effect for me. That's why. You know, even the goal when, you know, the game where we ended up giving them the goal, I wouldn't have really cared about that if John Terry hadn't have been giving it all that on the sideline. So yeah, it's that's the only bit of narrative I'll indulge in, is the fact that I think John Terry is the biggest prick on planet Earth.
That's
pipe bomb.
You can't disagree, can you? I mean, there's just nothing really to like.
I'd never get away with that on all stats.
No, it's fine, mate. It's fine. We love it here. We love it. What about you, Cage?
No, I don't see them as a rival. I mean, I know in recent history we've had a lot. I see. No, it's just if say like John Terry and Dean Smith leave, do we really care? Like once they've gone, I don't think so. So I think it's more of the way that they carry themselves. I think it's because everyone's got double standards, right? But these guys act like everything goes against them and absolutely nothing has gone for them, which is just not true. And I think that rubs people the wrong way, just how they go about stuff. So once them two go, I don't see them as a big rival personally myself. Somebody there was asking who else have they got apart from Grealish. Well, they've got McGinn. They've got Traore, who's looking good. You know, they've got players in spots that do all right. El Ghazi does okay sometimes. So although he's their biggest threat, they do have other threats in other areas, guys.
I think the guy, Bertrand Traore, as well, he didn't play in that first game. He came off the bench as well, didn't he? I think they were just feeling him out at that stage. And
I think it was Trezeguet, wasn't it, on that side?
It was very much, apart from, like they were in the Championship, I suppose, a little bit. But obviously now, you know, Traore is in there, and he is someone we need to be wary of, because I assume, based on the fact that Clicky might be out, etc., that we might see Jani back at left back. So, you know, any decent winger is going to always cause him problems, to be fair.
Well, say if it is worst case scenario and it's Click, Phillips, Rodrigo, all out of this game. I mean, how would you shape that midfield up? Especially the midfield's really down. What would you look to do differently to Southampton if Click is out of this one?
Yeah, I think if Click's out, we're likely to see a midfield three of Strauch, Dallas, and Roberts. And I think that if Villa play a 4-2-3-1 with Barkley playing in the 10 role, I think that's absolutely the right thing to do, because whilst I think, you know, Strauch is most comfortable as a centre back, and he's said as much himself this week, I think that he's the only one of the options that we've got to play in that central defensive midfield role that I'd want marking Barkley. I don't think I'd want anybody else doing that job. And for all the criticisms of Strauch against Arsenal, of which there were many and varied, the fact remains that his primary job in that game was to mark Odegaard out the game, and he did that. Odegaard barely got a kick throughout the entire game. So whatever other criticisms people may have of Strauch about that, he did his primary job better than anyone else could have done on that day, as far as I'm concerned.
That's a great shout, because I think All Star Sound retweeted out a video the day after or something where he had the run of the pitch, Odegaard, and he was knocking it all over. And
yeah, it was in the Europa League. Where he completely tore up the team that they played next.
Yeah. So it makes a great point. To be fair, I guess I'm not advocating this, but do we think maybe Llorente could be used there, or are we just saying definitely centre back for Llorente?
In Llorente's all his years played, he's played 16 games in central defensive midfield in his career. And for me, while he may be able to do some of the defensive work, he looked, I worry about him, to be honest. I think he's quite beatable in a one-on-one, and I think that's the last thing you want in the situation where you're up against a skillful number 10. Because if there's one thing Barkley can do, it's beat a man. And I think
he takes a lot of risks, doesn't he, as well? Llorente on the ball.
He does. So yeah, if for me, if Llorente is going to play, I want him playing as the spare centre back, and with Cooper marking Ollie Watkins. That would be my preferred way of seeing it set up.
Nice.
Would you agree with that, KG? In terms of, for me, that's probably, Yeah, I'd probably go exactly with that, to be fair, in terms of team share. I like the idea of Llorente on the right, Cooper on the left, a bit more natural balance to that in terms of what it was against Arsenal. I think that could potentially work quite well. What about you, mate?
Yeah. It's too early as well in Llorente's recovery to ask him to play central defensive midfield at this moment in time. Even if he could, you know, we always. I don't know about you guys, but I was watching. I was just like, please, just get through the next minute, and it was good to see him complete the game. So we'll keep him in central defense for now. Keep Struijk there because we've really got no options right now, especially if Klick's out. You know, our options reduced greatly if he's gone. So unless he's going to play Dallas there and play Alioski at left back, then we're going to have to keep Struijk there. I think Struijk. The only thing is that Struijk just doesn't have the distribution from that area, but he does an adequate job in a defensive way. So you're going to have to take those minuses at this moment in time with the squad.
What about you, Wayman? I mean, would you be going with that team as well? Maybe Costa for Harrison, as you mentioned?
I did mine. I brought it down, just looking at it there, and it is bob on. The only thing I'm switching Harrison out for Costa, and I think there's a realistic possibility it happens. He's been subbed twice at half time in both games, and normally when we see that sort of stuff, I mean, that happened to Costa when he was taken out of the side. Do you know what I mean? And I think maybe 2 appearances. Maybe he's looking at El Mohammadi at right back, who's for me he's not great. And you know, we've seen what Rafinha did to Bednarak. I think he'll do the same to El Mohammadi. I think if he puts him on the left, Costa's a much better option than Harrison on the right for me. And I wouldn't have been advocating this based on 2 weeks ago, but based on what he's given us when he's come off against Arsenal and obviously last time out, then get him in there for me. I think that would be my only change. Obviously Alioski in at left back, but I would go with the same team. I'd just advocate putting Costa at right midfield instead of Harrison.
I'd still keep Harrison in. I know he's had a couple of bad games, but I think there's a thing with Harrison where he does this though. He does do this for me, where he goes on a couple of games where he does nothing, and then bang, he's there. Newcastle at home. Yeah, we had a really bad, because there was a lot of talk before that Newcastle game. Harrison, what's he doing in this team? And he goes and just does what he did that night against Newcastle. Then West Brom, you could say pretty poor teams, but he is quite a reliable player in those kind of games for me. I think the thing with Costa is, I think you got Costa at this point now where he looks up for it now. I want to keep Costa hungry, personally. I want to keep him hungry because I think the problem was when Rafinha turned up, for me, Costa's, not in terms of effort, there's always been effort there, but I think in terms of his belief in himself dropped massively when Rafinha turned up. He saw his direct competition. I want to just keep Costa, just keep him working for that position, keep him working. And then, don't get me wrong, mate, I think in 2-3 games' time, if the trajectory carries on the same kind of way, that Harrison's coming off after 45 minutes, Costa's coming on having an impact, 100%. But for me, I still look at Villa and think, I want Harrison in for that defensive work rate, potentially. In terms of Villa, I still think have got threat going forwards, even without Grealish. I still think, your likes of Watkins, Trezeguet on this other side, Traore, whoever it is, Al Ghazi, they could cause problems. But I still keep Harrison in, to be honest. I think it's definitely closer than what it was a couple of weeks ago. I mean,
I think he makes the change. I do. Yeah, I do. I think he makes the change. I'm not saying it in any stretch of the imagination, Harrison's no good. That I'm definitely not saying that. I just think it makes sense. But then again, like Darren says, I mean, he might be making a change prior without even knowing how Villa are going to set up.
Yeah, I think that what we do is we play Rafinha on the left to target. I can't remember the lad's name that we played. Yeah, El Mohammadi, El Mohammadi, and I think we play Harrison on the right because for all the criticisms that people might have of Harrison at times, what he is good at is his defensive work. And if Matt Targett is somebody who is going to push forward and causes problems on that side, I'd rather have Harrison covering that and doing the close, tight build-up stuff that he's good at, particularly in a game where he's not going to be under huge amounts of press. And just I saw the question pop up there, Joe, about the midfield. Yeah. I just want to just go back to that, if that's all right, because I think it's a really interesting question. So against Wolves, Wolves played a 4-man midfield with 2 central midfielders, so we were able to match that up and play with 2 central midfielders, which is what we did. Villa are likely to play a 4-2-3-1, which is effectively 3 central midfielders, which means that we need to have that additional body in there, one of whom needs to be a dedicated central defensive midfielder with a marking job on the number 10. That's why we need to play that deeper lying central defensive midfield player, and I think Struijk is the only name in town for that at the moment without Phillips. Yeah.
No, totally. I mean, I can't think of anyone else who could actually do the job, really, realistically. I still don't. I think Llorente, there's obviously talk he could play there, but we're talking about when Llorente was playing there, you're actually going back about 5 or 6 years, to be fair, when he was kind of playing there on a fairly regular basis. And I think I still think Koch, if anyone is going to play holding midfield unexpectedly, it's probably more likely because he's done it more recently, in terms of in Germany for Freiburg and that lot. I just think it would go horrifically wrong if Llorente went there. I can't see it. I can see him possibly, pulling a muscle in terms of he's just come back from injury. It's different. It's completely different, isn't it? Holding midfield, you're looking behind you, you're looking ahead of you. There's a bit more running involved for me, especially in this team, because he's having to cover effectively 5 players in front of him. I mean, I think Llorente is promising. Promising is the wrong word because he is older.
27.
Promising is the wrong word. I think Llorente could be a good player for us, whether that's as a starting centre-back, backup centre-back, whatever it is. Essentially, another Berardi in that kind of sense. I do like he's got that spirit about him. What I loved about him that just brought me Berardi flashbacks was when he gave that ball away and he was just going like that about himself. I mean, it means nothing really on the pitch, but I like that kind of spirit about him.
To be fair, that's what I was doing as well.
Yeah, to be fair, that's what I was doing. When he did it for a 5th time in like 5 minutes.
Cage, you jump in, man. Cage, you jump in. I can see it. It's shaking your head.
Go on, Cagey.
No, it's I get it. There's people that love that passion stuff in it, and it means everything to them. I don't give a stuff about that. You just have to play football the right way. Absolutely. I'm not into that. He ran 22 kilometers. He's sweat for the shirt. Oh, let's play him every week. That's just not my style. So, but if it gets you going, then it's all about opinions, isn't it? But
I just said it didn't matter. Don't put words into. I just said I like to see it from time to time. I mean, yeah.
I'd rather someone competent at the job than kiss the badge any day. Yeah.
Rather than a cheerleader,
Passion merchants, isn't it? But
even I could see towards the end that Pontus was a bit,
pain in the arse.
Still some people won't get on with that. Still some people think that we shouldn't have got rid and all this sort of stuff. But he's the epitome of what Cage is talking about, and for those that react to him in a certain way as well. Because let's be honest, he did come in at a time where we were lacking that sort of stuff. And when he did come in, it was like, wow, we've got this person who cares. But then eventually it spilled over into you just being a bit of a tit now, to be honest. It's not all about you kind of thing, Pontus. So.
What?
What's
that? Right, we've got a Spanish international, we've got a German international. Would I take Pontus Jansson from Brentford? No. Move on. What basis would that? Pontus Jansson wouldn't even be a 5th or 6th choice centre back for us at this moment in time. He won't get in the squad.
Oscar, he beats his chest to the cut. He kisses the badge. He swore on TV when he felt it wasn't going his way. Don't you love that? No.
No. Look. Yeah, he was. At first, I think we all liked it about Pontus, and then he got in that kind of middle season under Heckingbottom where I thought, hang on a minute. I remember a game at Preston when we got beat 3-1 and he came off. Oh no! He was holding his head.
Time, man.
And I watched it back.
All the time when we were
losing. And we conceded. And I thought, and you saw a different side of Jans there at first under Bielsa. Bielsa even said he was our best defender, our best player that first season. I think was the exact words. But
he usually said that before he sells someone.
Yeah. He also said Eddie Nketiah was going to be a top prospect, and then but look, it's part and parcel. I'm not for any kind of element of imagination saying that Bielsa fabricates the truth. I just I can see why we did it. Ultimately, it was a risk at the time. It paid off. We got Ben White. Ben White moved on. Look. I'll be honest, I remember all the panic about Ben White leaving. I said Robin Koch, he'll do the job for us. And look, he's been out. Pascal Struijk, I did not think Pascal Struijk would do as well. But
Oscar, you all right, man?
What? Well, I'm just not having that. Right, someone's starting on me about Pontus Jansson, and I'm just calling out people that, having to go at me all the time.
He's got you on the hook.
Sick of it. Right, let's move. How long was I ranting for then?
About an hour.
It felt like 30 seconds, but it was a lot longer than that.
My dinner's ready, to be honest. So,
but anyway, right. So looking at it then, what kind of game are you expecting there, Darren? Are you expecting something similar to Southampton, where the first goal is really going to dictate the whole game to an extent?
No, I don't. Excuse me. I don't think so. I think it's going to be more where Villa are going to sit deeper and they're going to pick their moments, and that we'll be able to exploit the moments that come. But I really don't think that they're going to come and give us the same level of pressure in that first 20 minutes that Southampton did. That's not really the way that they play, I don't think. So I think it's going to be more like one of the Championship games, but one of the Championship games against a decent side, not against any old bunch of cloggers that have turned up and just packed the penalty box. I think they have got the quality to hurt us in moments when they choose to do it.
Mm. And KG, what are you expecting? What kind of game are you expecting?
Well, the thing is, Arsenal didn't play like that either, and they did against us, and they've gone back to type ever since they played us. You know what I mean? So we're not like every other opponent for teams, and I know I've said that before, but it's true. We play a certain style that lets other players express themselves. So it's up to us again to impose our style of play on them, just like we did against Southampton. If we do that against Aston Villa tomorrow, bearing what they've got out, I do think we'll win tomorrow. So it's up to us to start well, get on the front foot. If Harrison is starting, he's got to be better. I didn't realize how bad he was in that first half until I had to look back, and I thought, oh man, he was getting crowded out so many times. He lost the ball a couple of times, and it doesn't work for him that well on the right. But if Bielsa does drop him, by the way, it will be like the similar pattern he did with, like Joe said, Helder Costa. He did it also with Matthijs Klick when Matthijs Klick was coming off a sub, and then he was on the bench. So if he does follow that pattern, then maybe Harrison will get the hunger back and we get the real Jack Harrison back. But I like Jack Harrison anyway, so I can't wait to sign him permanently. But not everyone, you don't have to play it every week, and maybe he needs just a little break out of the team. It's holding Costa back while he's on this form as well. I mean, it could be detrimental to a guy like him because you can see he's a confidence player. Yeah. And if he's had a good spell and then Harrison starts again, he's going to probably think, well, what else have I got to do? So it'd be interesting to see who starts. But as long as we start on the front foot, I think we'll be more than fine.
The only thing I say about Costa is, it is only, for me, he did okay when he came on against Wolves, but it is only like literally 2 games from Costa. I mean, but compared to what he has been doing, I just feel like because he's been so out of sorts kind of last couple of weeks that he's had 2 good, like all of a sudden he's been made out to be this. And look,
I'm with you, bro, but I remember I said exactly the same about Tyler when people were saying he should start, and we said, didn't we? I said, what, for 2 sub appearances, but no, I'm banging the drum because he has come on and he's been involved in goals. What more can you ask for? I mean, Tyler Roberts could have had 3 assists in 3, couldn't he, as well? And we were ready to loan him out. That was it. People were saying, not everyone, some people on here won't have been like that, but I know some of them were saying, yeah, exactly, Cage. I did at times, maybe he does need that loan, in his preferred position at a club and he'll play all the time. And, it might have been split 50-50, but he hasn't done that. He's got the bit between his teeth, and I'm seeing similar now from Costa. And I don't think.
No, I wouldn't disagree. At all. It is just only a couple of games. It's not like it's a sustained period of form in that kind of sense. But I don't know. But if you had told me back in December we'd be starting a game with Pascal Struijk holding midfield, Tyler Roberts playing ahead of Pablo, Helder Costa playing again ahead of Jack Harrison. Llorente and Cooper at the back together. I mean, it's crazy. It is crazy when you think of it like that. But to be fair, it shows that this thing about Bielsa being stubborn and he'll only play certain players in this lot. It's been just an absolute load of nonsense, to be fair. This thing about, he was only playing Patrick Bamford because, he's stubborn and all this lot. But it's just not part of what Bielsa does. But slight change of subjects, just to talk about Click a little bit. For me, it seems weird saying this, but I think it's a bit of almost a blessing in disguise, kind of what's happened in terms of his own individual form, that he's going to get potentially a bit of a break out the team, and a proper break out the team, i.e. not playing the game. I mean, do you feel like that a little bit, Darren, in terms of, I think Dallas and Roberts last couple of weeks in midfield have just played better, to be honest, and I absolutely love Matthijs Click. I'm not doubting Matthijs Click's quality for 1 minute. I just think if he is having this, because I think, it's been mentioned about his hip problem and that lot. It's been a persistent problem, to be fair. It's not just been like the last couple of weeks. It almost could just be long-term or even medium-term. A good thing, this. Do you feel that way?
Well, yeah, because I think he has been carrying an injury for quite a long time, even before he slipped on the pitch and did his hip against whoever it was that he did that against. Was it Palace? Might have been Palace or Everton. But yeah, I think I sort of my feeling on Click is that he's basically just played too much football since Bielsa came in. That he's barely had a break. That he's been playing international football when he's not been playing for Leeds, and that he kind of. I don't say that he looks tired or jaded or burnt out or any of that bullshit that gets said about us, but I do think he could do with a break, But what we know is that if he's fit, and even if he's 85% fit, Bielsa in all likelihood will pick him. So, and it sounds like he might even be in contention at the weekend. So we'll just have to tomorrow. So we'll just have to see how it goes, I think. But I kind of do get the impression that he could do with the rest.
And do you know what as well, like Oscar? I think we need to. I was going to mention it as well before you moved on about Jack Harrison. Is that Jack Harrison's number of appearances and the amount he's played actually goes under the radar a little bit because of Click. And I know that might seem mad, but I think it does. Like, Jack could probably do with a little bit as well, because he plays a hell of a lot of games and has done since being.
Just that City game, wasn't it? Where I think that's the only break he's had in the last 18 months. It is mad. Yeah. And consider the work rate he has to put in on that side of the pitch. Last season he was our main outlet, etc., etc. I mean, yes, it's definitely worth a point, to be fair, and he won't be used to that in terms of, because his first season he was in and out of the team. New York, he kind of wasn't really playing week in, week out. I mean, it's definitely a fair point, but yeah, no, it's very true, very true. And let's not forget Harrison last time against Villa. I thought I'd one of his best games of the season in terms of that game, in terms of especially first half, where just ball after ball after ball, he was swinging in the box. I think he probably gave Matty Cash one of his toughest games in terms of in the Villa shirt. I mean, it was super impressive. And yeah, I do have the feeling though tomorrow that Bamford's going to get a fair few chances. I still believe that. I still believe Mings, if you do put get enough bodies around him, I do feel Mings has got that error in him. I think whenever Villa do concede, a lot of the time you look at Mings and think, ooh, it's kind of on Mings' side of the pitch, where the mistakes happen. So no, it is. I do genuinely think it's going to be an intriguing game. I think obviously in terms of as a spectacle, I think you do kind of want people like Grealish on the pitch, just to make it a really, really entertaining game in that sense. But hopefully it benefits us. I mean, just looking ahead now, just for the rest of the season, obviously we're into 2/3 of the way through the season now. I'll go to you first, Darren.
Yeah.
What is it you want to see now for these last sort of third of the season? And not just in terms of league position, but on the pitch. Do you want to see some of the youngsters maybe given the odd chance off the bench in the odd game? Or are you just thinking now we can finish as high as we want to almost?
No, for me, if a younger player gets a start, it needs to be earned. You don't just give starts for Leeds United away.
Not starts. I mean off the bench and that lot.
I think there's a decent chance that at some point between now and the end of the season we see Gelhardt get some minutes, and I'd be really down with that. Other than that, I think we keep trying to improve. We keep trying to improve our control in games. We keep trying to improve the way we create chances, and we try and keeping the game tighter at the back than we have been able to do at some points in the season. So for me, it's not so much about the results, but it's about seeing that continued improvement in terms of the way we play and our performances. And I think we've seen that recently. In terms of our league finish, for me, I said at the start of the season that I thought we'd finish between 9th and 12th. And I meant that as a massive achievement, because it is a massive achievement. And that's still where I think we'll finish. I think to talk of Europe is premature at this moment in time. And I think 9th is kind of as high as we can finish. And that's kind of where I think we'll finish between 9th and 12th. And I think that's great.
I can't believe there's people talking about finishing in Europe. I can't believe that. That's incredible, isn't it? I mean, first season back and then talking about Europe.
Mate, I'll keep banging that drum, you know. You know what? I did listen. I was saying yesterday, where my head's at. Look, there's a lot of teams. I was writing it down today. There's a lot of teams in between us and there, and what's the realistic best we could probably hope for if we were to get in would be 7th, and that's really going to be tough, you know what I mean? Like, really, really tough, because there's a lot of teams like Spurs and Arsenal. I know they're poor now, but that's with them not being in my 7. I'm going on something earlier on, and I was looking at it. And
yeah, but Joe, look at our results against Arsenal and Spurs. Neither of them are great, but they've both hammered us effectively or given us really difficult games. So I think that, yeah, we might finish above one of them, but I think that finishing about 9th or 10th or 11th would be a true reflection of probably the quality of where we are.
Oh,
sorry.
No, 100%. I get it, man. Top 10 would be absolutely amazing, wouldn't it? Yeah. Let's be honest. I'm not. We were speaking to the Villa fans about it yesterday, and we're saying, look, you've got 2 games in hand. What are your aspirations? And they were saying they think we'll finish above them, because now with Grealish out, they reckon they're just going to drop like a.
Yeah, but that was mind games, though. I still think that was.
No, but I said that. But it's not mind games. They have no impact on the game whatsoever.
Yeah,
I think mind games. They've not been great this year, have they? Either since the turn of the year. But not for me. Look, I didn't even know about this, and this is really poor form. But this Europa League conference thing, I did not even know about this till yesterday. And they're talking about, if that could end up dropping down to 8th, and I was like, yo, we might get in at 8th. I was thinking, right, that's it. We're definitely on. So I was actually checking it out earlier on. I'm not going to lie, going, right, what are the permutations? How do you get in? You know? But now, listen, top 10 for me would be amazing. And I think we can do it. Why not? You know? Yeah, and I'm more excited for April and seeing the difference in performance against Liverpool, what will be up against City, and of course them across the Pennines. I want to see that, and that's what we're here for. You know, I've seen people talking about, we need to get points up ball before April. We're totally fine. I've seen someone in the chat talking about goal difference. What for? Like, we don't need to worry about that for me. We're okay. Give me them games in April. Let's have a proper run and get some scalps off the top 6 sides. That's what I want to see now between now and the end of the season. He's beating some of the big boys and beating them well. You know, I'm not saying it will happen, but I'd like to see it happen.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts, KG, in terms of last sort of third of the season?
Well, I just want to say about Tyler Roberts. I'm not convinced just after 1.5 games of decent form that he's turned it around. And neither is a guy like Rafinha, who keeps setting them up and he keeps on putting them in the seats. So, you know, we have to have a look with Tyler Roberts. Maybe if he can go back into Click's place in central midfield and go from there, be a passer of the ball or something. He's not a striker, though. Not on this planet. He's not a striker, so he's going to have to go after that. In terms of playing youngsters, which was your original questions, no, this isn't the championship against Luton and everything else like that. Now, this isn't the time for he's from the academy, let's give him a game. No, we need to be finishing.
I didn't say, right, for the last time, I said substitute appearance, which means 10 or 20 minutes. I did not say, let's start Joffy Gelhardt against Man United at home.
Right. Wait. Yes. I know you never said that. I'm getting there. But what I'm saying is I've seen people talk about like putting Jack Jenkins and stuff in there. We saw them guys against Crawley. Come on now. We're not in the championship finishing 15th anymore with nothing to play for. We can't just be handing out starts and sub appearances for people that don't deserve them. And with the Gelhardt thing, I think that he's got Premier League potential. So I'm totally with that shout. But otherwise, we're not in any cuts. We want to finish as high as we can in the league. We've got nothing else. Let's play our best players in every game when, you know, the schedule's not every 3 days, and see where we go from there. Because what people are not understanding, and Gail has said there that Rafinha's quality. Me and Gail agreed on something there. Unless we finish high up the table and show and look like we're going to do something next season, we're not going to keep hold of guys like Rafinha long term. So we have to get our league position right. It's important.
I just want to make a point of that as well. Like, I remember, and I actually I got a little bit like vitriolic, because I remember like everyone in our comments all the time when we're losing, start Geldard and Greenwood, start Geldard and Greenwood. And then we had the Crawley game. We've seen Greenwood. We see a few of the others. And it was like, listen, they're not ready. I don't mean that to think they're not ready. And when they're ready, they'll be in, you know. I mean, I remember Robbie Gotts. I wanted that guy to play all the time. Come on, give him that game time. When he got it at Arsenal, he was exceptional. But he's had to move on from Lincoln and he's playing at Salford. That's no disrespect to him, you know. He's a great player. But what I'm saying is if they're ready, they will get the game at the time, you know what I mean? Let's not rush it. Give time. We all know that Geldard's got so much potential. Greenwood's got so much potential. But might it be actually detrimental to just go, oh, we're winning this game, we sit here, go and have a game? Do you know what I mean? I questioned the Huggins substitution at the time when we were 4-0 down against Arsenal. I was like, is this really a positive thing to throw a young kid on and 4-0 down like against Arsenal? But he was ready. Do you know what I mean? Because he did bits in that game. And that's why I look at it. Bielsa's, I know people say, well, he's not exempt from criticism and that, which is fine. But for me, if he thinks they're ready, then they're ready. You know, we've seen with previous managers, they'll just put them in to try and mix it up. We've seen it with Heckingbottom. Do you know what I mean? And he put in, what's his face, Edmondson, etc. And we're all expecting the second come in, as it were. Maybe that's heaping a bit too much pressure on, and that wasn't the case, was it? You know, so just give time, and when the time's ready. I mean, look, the perfect example, and we spoke about it before, Oscar, is Phil Foden. I'm not saying any of them players are anywhere close to Phil Foden, but
I think you are, though, mate.
No, I'm definitely not. But Pep Guardiola was absolutely hammered. Not hammered, but there was large sections of people saying this kid needs to get game time. Why aren't you giving him game time? He needs more game time. 2 seasons later, look where he's at now. Do you know what I mean? And that was giving the kid time. So, stick with Bielsa.
I think people underestimate the leap between under 23s football and men's football.
Yeah,
and I think it's the best indicator of that is that when you see our first team players step down to 23s, it looks like a stroll in the park for them because they're playing with kids. And I think that you can see, even I'm the biggest Pascal Strout fan going, but even against Cardiff when Strout came on that time and they got the 3 goals back, I think that was a bit of a rude awakening for him, just in terms of the pace and intensity of the game. So I think you've got to be really careful, and I think that the people we've got out on loan at the moment, they'll come back and they'll either get involved in the first team or they won't, and they'll be moved on and will have earned some value because they've been playing men's football in that interim time.
Yeah, I'm totally with Darren on that. There's going to be players here that, say we were still in the Championship, may have had a shot of making the squad, and they may have done that. But we're in the Premier League now. We've got a guy, and I keep going back to him, but I want more Rafinhas in the team. You know what I mean? I don't want more Tyler Roberts where we don't know where to put him, or if he's going to have one good game in 5 or 6. I want a Rafinha type of player, and I know we can't fill the squad with all of them because he gets unhappy. But you want more of those than bringing in somebody that just isn't ready. And bear in mind as well, under 23s are not even playing in the Premier League of their divisions. They will get promoted, it looks like, but they're not even playing the top division there. So that's something else to bear in mind as well.
Is Tyler Roberts your target today, KG? Because you seem to have gone from Pablo to Tyler today. You seem to, at every opportunity.
I see what you're doing because
Two can play that game. Two can play that game you were trying to play before, getting me wound up about Pontus Jansson. Two can play that game.
It's nothing like that with Tyler Roberts. But just for me, if he's still playing at the way that he is now, offer him a new contract by all means, but send him out where he's going to be starting week in, week out. And then he comes back and we're like, wow, I can't believe we've got this player back, rather than just sell him off straight away. Because there is something there, but is it going to be consistent enough? That's the question.
Do you know what? I listened to the Phil Day podcast today, and he made the point of saying, like, it's very much do or die time for these sort of players, because come the summer, if they haven't taken their chance that they have now, then it's more than likely they will be moved on, because we'll be looking. I think Phil mentioned about 5 players.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So if they come in, there's even less game time, and other managers might keep them in and around, but Bielsa likes a tight-knit squad. They will be moved on. So it's time now for Tyler to continue. I don't know. I'm split with him. We'll have to wait and see. But he knows himself. Look, what happened in January, he'll have heard what was going on, clubs inquiring about him, a lot of the fan base, and there was this big thing, that Willie won't he kind of vibe. And he stayed and he's knuckled down, and he's obviously up for it in terms of, I'm up for fighting for my place. So, he's got to continue between now and the end of the season. He's taken his opportunity, you could say, a little bit, because obviously with Rodrigo being out and he's being trusted with that. But when Rodrigo comes back in, we'll have to wait and see just where his level of performance is at, whether or not he can keep him out. I know, Darren, you mentioned before on Twitter the 3, I think you said Shackleton, Strauch and Roberts, was it?
Yeah.
And 2 of them will keep. Go on, mate. I'll let you.
Well, I just kind of got a hunch, really, that I think those 2 of those 3, and I don't know which 2, because it does depend on so many circumstances. But I just kind of like to kind of have a little bit of a hunch that 2 of those 3 will be immovable from the first team by the end of the season. And now the problem with Shackleton is that it looks like he picks up quite a few muscular injuries, and I think that's a real problem for him. Tyler Roberts has managed to stay fit for a year. I think that Tyler Roberts does something for our team that no other player does, and particularly no other player that plays in the midfield, which is that he picks up the ball deep and he runs with the ball, which I think we've not really had a player that's done that since Samu Saiz used to do it. And I think that really helps us to break press. It really helps us to gain yards. And I think he's got a really good chance, if he knuckles down, if he keeps his form, if he demonstrates that he can impact games in a really positive way. I think he's got a decent chance of nailing it down. Now, I know that that's not the most popular view ever expressed, but I'm standing by it, because I think that he's got all the quality he needs to do it.
And you're right to stand by it, Darren. You're right to stand by it.
He's just got to be a little bit more clinical, because there's been a number of times where the ball's cut back to him and he's blazing it.
It's not a finished article, though.
It's always rising. There was a cutback goal against Everton. We could have got something. I mean, we should have deserved all 3 points for me, but there's a cutback where late on in the game he could have equalised. Do you know what I mean? And there was a few against Southampton where he's blazed it. Add that to his game. You know what I mean?
And Joe, there's also a comment there. Sorry, there's also a comment there that says it also hurts the team when he loses the ball. How many times have we seen him where it just bounces off his leg and goes out of play for a throw for the opposition? It's happened a few times. So, yeah, I mean, whether that's lack of game time or not, but we haven't got time in order to wait for some of these players, because they will get moved on if they're not up to the standard.
I agree with Radebe Leeds' comment just there. I think Tyler is better at picking up the ball deep and driving it. And also, I think in terms of losing the ball, Rodrigo loses the ball a lot. Any creative player loses the ball a lot. It's part of the role. I think it's no.
I say that as well. So I'm not going to let you get that one off. I know creative players lose the ball, but sometimes it's been
talking about miscontrol.
Yeah, it's miscontrol. It's happened, and it's happened quite a few times where we look like we're going to be moving forward, then all of a sudden it's bounced off his leg, off his shin, and it's a throw into the opposition. It's happened 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, a couple of times when he's been breaking out wide. I think I can think of a couple of occasions like that's fair enough.
Yeah.
All I'm going to say is on Tyler Roberts is, remember when Calvin Phillips was 22? When Calvin Phillips was 22, he couldn't even get in the Leeds team ahead of Euno Kane. Now, players develop at different speeds. I think Roberts is held, and it's true. You can laugh all you want. It is true.
No, I get it. I hear it.
When you think of it now, but players, I'm very touchy tonight. I do apologise for that. Right. I know, it's really annoyed me that. I'm not going to lie. But players develop. There's this standard that Roberts is held to, and it's fair enough. He's starting games for the team. He's got to perform, but I think he's getting there now. I think he's getting there where you're seeing he is growing as a player. He's not. He can still go a lot further for me. For me, he can be a player who can get 10 goals, 10 assists every season if he really puts his mind to it. I think he is that kind of player who can offer you that reliable end products. And look, he has skied a couple of chances, but as he gets there, I just feel he is one of those players that will develop at that weird kind of rate. Like even Jack Harrison, first season at Leeds. Could you imagine Jack Harrison being a Premier League winger after that first couple of months at Leeds? He finished the season well. But he's not. But look at the games played, though. Look at the games played. He's not played that many games despite being at the club a long time. This is his first season where he's played consistently. I don't know. I just think with Roberts, I get it. I do get it. When he starts games, you are there to be criticised if you don't play well. But you've got to remember his age for me. That's something you've got to bear in mind. I think if he gets to 24, 25, if he gets to 24, 25 playing for Leeds and he's not kicked on, 100%, that is probably the time where you say he's not the right player for us. But I do feel, KG, that next season will be the season where you start to see 4 or 5 Rafinhas in the team. I think obviously, Joe just mentioned it then, Phil Hayes alluded to it. And it probably will be a time when Roberts really has got a battle on. A lot of players will have a battle on, but that's good. That can only be good for us long term. You look at City. City have got not only a really good first team, they've got like a second team that could win the league. I'm not saying we're going to get to that level, but in terms of depth, I quite like the idea of Roberts coming off the bench from time to time or starting the odd game. I quite like the feeling of that, to be fair. But just one thing we'll move on to before predictions is Pascal Struijk. Pascal Struijk, I mean, 11 games he's played, we've conceded 13 goals, almost half the amount of what we kind of were before he came back into the team. I mean, he's been absolutely unreal on set pieces. I think he's massively helped us too. How impressed have you been by Pascal Struijk, Darren? I'm teeing you up well here. I'm teeing you up well.
Me up well, and I'm gonna make a statement that I think he's the best centre back at the club. I think he's really, really good. I think his defensive positioning is incredible. I think his backup defending when he's doing the libero role and backing up his other centre back or his right back, I think he's incredible at that. I think his decision making on the ball is really good. I think he's great in the air. I like the way that he never dives in. He doesn't need to make a tackle to defend well. He waits for the striker to make a mistake, and that's proper defending as far as I'm concerned. Not just diving in and kind of committing yourself and getting mashed up because of it. I think he's a proper player. I'm hoping that at some point in the future, and this is not a knock on Liam Cooper, because I think he's been a great servant to the club, and I think he's acquitting himself really well in the Premier League. I think he's definitely a really good season. But at some point in the next 18 months, I expect our standardised starting 11 to include a centre-back partnership of Cock and Stroke.
What did you make to his marking in the corners against Vestergaard? I thought it was pretty poor.
Yeah, but it was also held back a lot, and I think Southampton's combination of good delivery and good movement and good blocking off makes it really difficult to man mark against them. So anytime you operate with a man marking system from corners, you are a bit vulnerable to that, to being blocked off and stuff. So I think it was a combination of Southampton. The delivery from Ward-Prowse is obviously really good. And I think that they were really smart in terms of making sure that our best header of the ball couldn't get near it.
Yeah, no. And he looks
best headers of the ball.
Yeah. He looks. I've seen someone mention about this arm thing. I've seen a picture of that as well, and I was a bit like, I'm not so sure. But he didn't even look to be looking at the ball on that first one because we were watching, But I think attacking set pieces as well, he looks so dangerous. I mean, the goal that he scored against Arsenal, for him to just absolutely leave Luiz in his wake, some will say, "Oh, well, that's not hard to do," but Luiz is, is a strong boy. Do you know what I mean? And he just absolutely left him for dead. I agree with you. I do think at some stage he will pass Cooper, and I just want to give props to Cooper. Because
absolutely.
He gets so much stick, even after Wolves. People were saying he was rubbish, but he wasn't. Defensively, he was great.
Yeah,
and I thought at the weekend, he was my man of the match. I know that sounds mad, but I did it just for the simple fact of I get Rafinha was amazing, but I thought Cooper was class. I just think, like you say, who'd have thought he'd have been able to I don't know, just get to a level where he's looking good. I know Cagey's not agreeing with me, but I think Cooper's been great last few games, especially last. I would say take Arsenal out of it, which is a bit of an anomaly. I think for past 4 or 5 games, I think Cooper's been great personally.
I don't think there's a question that outside the top 6 or 7, in terms of on paper at least, that when Robin Koch is back in the team, that Robin Koch and Struijk is probably one of the strongest centre-back partnerships on paper, because we're not seeing them play. I think the only time we've seen them play is that first game against Liverpool. But look, that first game against Liverpool, that was a write-off. It was Koch's first game. He arrived like a day before. Struijk's first game at centre-back. I mean, for me, on paper at least, that is a kind of the centre-back foundation, along with Melia, along with Phillips in front of it. That kind of 4 together. For me, I look at it and think that's something where really give a solid foundation to them really build for the future. Obviously, the left-back rumour, Perard's been linked. I don't know a lot about him, to be honest, but that's a positive sign in terms of an out-and-out left-back. Luke Hayden, we know, can do a solid job. All of a sudden, I do think we're building that kind of team where I think kind of Cagey was saying about Rafinha, in terms of reliability, I think you're getting reliable players in the team now where you know exactly. With Struijk now, whenever he plays centre-back, even if he plays on the right of the two, which he shouldn't be playing this well on the right of the two, it's so much more difficult to play on the opposite side of where your strongest foot is, especially for a left footer. I think his right foot's really good. I know he's left-footed. I know he's left-footed, but he can bang a 30-40-yard pass with his right foot, no problem at all. No, 100%. And it's credit to him he's done so well for me, Darren, in terms of Struijk. For me, it's got to be nailed on Struijk. I don't know, then I'm just thinking Melia. I'm thinking in terms of young player of the year so far. I think Melia and Struijk are just being ridiculous kind of thing. Ridiculous. And you could even say, they won't win it, because obviously Saka's going to win Premier League Young Player of the Year. I think that's pretty obvious, him or Foden. But it wouldn't surprise me if they're in the shortlist, one of those two, come the end of the season. If it says the shortlist of 6 or 8 or whatever it is, or 10, I don't know what it is. It wouldn't surprise me if one of those two is in the shortlist. And certainly on current form, since Struijk's coming to the team, I don't think there's any kind of argument about that. But I don't think Cagey's having this.
It's mad, It's mad. Sorry,
I see Cagey laughing there.
It's mad. Like, obviously, this was at a stage where Victor took a lot of flack for players that he was brought in during this period, and Pascal was one of them. And if he goes on to hit the ceiling that we all believe he will do, and and let's not forget the club talked about that Leicester model, etc. And there will come times where we will look to sell players and move them on. That's going to be some turnover. That's going to be some turnover for that lad. And I remember, obviously, Appaway Halmy was playing a lot of the time, and we all thought he was ahead of him and all this sort of stuff. And then Pascal, like that's the mad thing. That's the recruitment at Leeds United, for me. They took so much flack, and I think it's been exceptional. I just want to say that, because who'd have thought when Pascal came on, he would have the trajectory that he's had. And now, like Darren, and I'm not sure if KG agrees, but we're all saying probably next season, him and Koch's your ideal centre-back partnership.
I think Cooper probably starts the next season as the starting centre-back, but I think there's a good chance that by the end of the season, Struijk takes over as the guy. Because I don't think Cooper's past it by any stretch of the imagination. I think he's probably got another good year or 2 in him at least,
I just want to say to this, let's not.
Nah,
I think we've gone. It sounds mad, but I think we're past kind of players like that where you kind of risky signings. I think that's a risky signing. I don't think that's what we're about now. I think we're about players where you look at and think, yeah, they're going to do a job for us. You know exactly what you're going to get from them, and that says that Rafinha level.
There was somebody else saying Almiron too. They're not good players, man. Just if you've only watched them against us and you think they're good on that basis, you haven't watched them enough. They're just so inconsistent. Say Maximin's got no end product. Very very rarely he does something. He scored the other day. He didn't know what to do. You know what I mean? He celebrated. He didn't know what he was doing. So I mean, we're not going for those kind of players. In fact, there's a guy in here. I think Joe summoned the Fodens. There's a guy called Foden in there, and he mentioned Tyler Roberts possibly going to Newcastle. That's where I see Tyler Roberts eventually going if he doesn't make it at Leeds. Those kind of teams where they're not that ambitious. Currently with their current owners, they're not that ambitious. I can see him being one of those kind of signings. But yeah, no, St. Maximin, Almiron, no chance.
St. Maximin's decision making is appalling. He is just absolute. Yeah, he just, like you say, he gets into the box and he just don't know what to do when he gets there.
It's either that, Darren, or the ball goes to the corner flag. It's either a pass, a shot, or going to the corner flag anyway. So no, thank you.
Fair.
No, fair enough. Well, let's go to predictions before we sign off. Anyway, I'll go to you first, KG. What are you thinking? Leeds Villa.
I'm gonna go 3-1 Leeds.
Darren?
3.
Yeah, I'm a centre back, so I want a clean sheet. So we'll have a 2-0, please. Nice, easy regulation, fuss-free, 2-0, 1 goal in each half. That'll do me just nicely.
Nice.
Love that. Wayman?
Yeah, I mean, that 2-0's my pick as well. I think we keep another clean sheet. No Grealish, no Cash. Massive losses for them. Massive. Yeah, 2-0, mate, I think. And like as always with Leeds United, if we get a goal early, you know, I don't think Villa are quite up for the fight. I think they fell a little bit to pieces when we went up in that first game, and I'd expect if we were to go in front early, then that could be, you know, we could see another similar scoreline. But you know, that's just my opinion. But yeah, I will go for 2-0. But if we score early, you never know, man. You never know with this Leeds United side. But if we score early, we win, man. We win. It is what it is. As long as we score early, I'm all right, man. And 2-0. Sorry, I've rabbited on.
I'm still going to 2-1, you know. I'm still going to 2-1. I'd say, look, 6 points from the last 2. Absolutely superb. Gives us a nice platform going into March. But yeah, I guess we'll leave it there, guys. And before we sign off, Darren, just remind us, if for anyone who is new watching this, where can we find you, mate?
So you can find me on the All Stats Aren't We podcast. After my comments about John Terry earlier, I'm a bit reluctant to give my Twitter handle, but it's at Darren Driver. So if you're a Villa fan, please don't tweet me because I can't be bothered.
I'll text you, off you, mate.
Cheers,
John
brother.
Terry is a tit.
Yeah, pretty much. KG, where can we find you, mate?
Yeah, it's at KG Vision on all platforms, YouTube, Twitter, all of that. I'm the guy that wants to see Leeds progress and go forward. I don't really care for passion merchants. So if you like good footballers, come over and we'll talk.
Are you having a diss at us there, KG? Is that what you should do? No, no, make sure you check out KG and of course Darren, man. Both putting out great stuff on each other's respective pods, channels, and that. It's great to have them on, man. Great pairing. Great preview. Thank you very much.
Can you see that? You see that comment?
Which one? The Villa fan? Yeah,
the Vinnie Markham one.
Yeah, we to be fair, we had Lewis on LUFC. He said something similar about Grealish and that, and everyone was calling him
AVFC Lewis.
So yeah,
yeah, man. No, that's it for people that aren't tribal. That's me. I love Leeds United, but I love football too. So if I like a player, I like a player. So there we go.
Fair enough. It's I can't lie. Grealish, you watch him play, he's absolutely amazing to way. He's a box office player in terms of how he plays. But I won't lie, I dislike him off the pitch, and I think that's pretty much anyone.
Come the Euros, he'll be the best thing since sliced bread. But as soon as it ends,
I still want Foden ahead of him.
I can't be bothered with international football's a waste of time, so I won't even be watching. To be honest, that's my view on it.
Oh really?
Yeah, no, I can't be bothered with international football.
See, friendlies, I hear you, but when it's major tournaments, I get carried away with it, and I love it. And it's like, yeah, England.
If it's not the World Cup, I ain't watching.
Fair enough. Yeah. So we will leave it there, guys. Absolutely unreal in terms of live watches on this. Make sure you smash the like before you head out. Smash that subscribe button because we will be live in just under 40 minutes with your Before the Whistle Blows. Usual guests: Hal, Corey, Elena, Locks, Usual guest, me and Mr. Wayman. We will be looking at the Premier League fixtures in 40 minutes, so stay locked. Grab a coffee, grab a beer, grab whatever, because we'll be back in 40 minutes anyway, guys. We'll leave it there, and we'll play the little jingle to say bye. Right.